Is it better in 2021 to purchase one property and pay it off? Or is it better to actually invest? So we're gonna really deep dive into this in this video with my trusty whiteboard. So keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi Sharma and I'm the founder and buyer's agent here at Search Property. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another episode of Search Property TV. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button, drop me a like. Let's see if we can get this to 245 likes, just because I like the number. In this video, we're really gonna discuss the difference between just buying your own home with debt, or is it better to actually go and invest in multiple properties? And the best way to illustrate this is with my trusty whiteboard. So would you rather? Okay, so of course here is my fantastic drawing, but it's gonna prove a point and I'm gonna show you how. So would you much rather buy one vehicle, let's be it your favorite vehicle, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. I don't know too much about cars, right? But a really expensive car that now you have to, keep for the next 30 years, similar to buying your own home? Or would you rather go out and purchase multiple little cars, right? And when I say little, I'm saying in terms of expense. Would you go and build a fleet of cars that eventually get you to a point where in 5 to 7 years allow you to also purchase this Lamborghini, Ferrari, dream car, and whilst keeping all of this to provide you cash flow? What would you rather? We as a society are so caught up with instant gratification, it blows my mind. Too many people are going out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, working in a job they don't like, to then get to Friday and say, well, hold up. I just spent 40 hours of my life doing something I don't really enjoy. Now I better make up for it. Now I better go and be social. Let's go do that lifestyle stuff that we wanted to do so that we can actually see the fruits of our labor instantly. Because I'm gonna forget about this. By the time we get to Monday, I'm gonna have to do it all again. So I now need to at least spend some money, retail therapy, going out, socializing, whatever it is, but it's done from the wrong place. There's nothing wrong with actually going and enjoying. Like, I do it as well. You get to the weekend, you can relax and do whatever else. But the problem is that it's coming from a negative place. We're so constrained by our beliefs, our limiting beliefs, in that, oh wait, if I'm doing something, I need to now show that there's some sort of fruit for the labor I've just done. That may be, I need to go now post on Instagram showing that, look at my life, it's so amazing. Maybe that's actually addressing a whole nother part of your mindset that you need to address. But bringing it back to this, it's that I go out there and buy a house so that I can go take a photo in front of the board that says sold, so that I can flex on Instagram. I don't know, right? I never did it. I've purchased multiple properties for myself and it's not something that, is wide in my head. I wouldn't do it. But the problem is that we get so house proud. We listen to the wrong people, look at the wrong things, and then get sort of sucked into this system where now I've got a house, right? In this case, the Lamborghini. I've got this house, but now is that the right move? So many people I'm speaking to often make this move, and then 10 years later, which is when they're now coming across my channel and going, oh, I think I made a mistake here. And in this video, I'm going to discuss pros and cons for both. We're going to show you literally what the difference is, and you can make up your own mind. At the end of the day, this is not financial advice. It's just an exercise for us to start thinking above what we know, above the people that are around us sharing their thoughts and opinions. And this is just some guy on YouTube, right? So drop me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's keep getting into the juice of this content. To help illustrate my point, I'm going to use an example of two people, Jane and John. Wow, getting real creative here, right? Now, Jane is someone who maybe you can relate to, and you might be able to relate more to John. But with Jane, she is very much in a position where she's now been working for a couple of years and gone, okay, now I need to use this money to now do something. Now that might be, I need to invest in ETFs, I need to invest in cryptocurrency, I need to buy Pokemon cards, I need to go and buy a house. Now, most cases, it's going to be buying a house, investing, right? And so she then goes, well, who else am I going to talk to here? because I don't know anyone in my friend circle that's talking about it openly, because apparently personal finance is taboo, and so I can't ask anyone these things. So I'm gonna go to my parents. So generally, the parents probably have a house in a suburb in, a big part of the capital city. So let's just use Sydney, for example, right? So Jane goes to the parents and says, hey, look, I wanna invest this money, I wanna buy something, I'm not sure where to go. Now the parents will go, well, we bought a house, right? We bought a house in Sydney about 20 years ago, right? So 20 years ago. When we bought it 20 years ago, the property prices were, let's say we bought it for 200K, right? So they ultimately go, well, we bought it for $200,000 20 years ago, and now the value is 1.2 million. So according to the parents, this works. This whole system here works because they put in 200K and 20 years later chucked out 1.2 million. Now in those 20 years, they've probably paid down their loan. So now they're sitting on an asset that they say, well, look at us, we did pretty well, we worked, we paid down the loan, and we now have a house worth $1.2 million. What more do you want, right? So if they started this at 25, by 45, they've got a house paid off. That's generalizing, right? But so Jane goes and talks to the parents that have done this and says, well, okay, so then I'll go do the same, right? So they go, okay, let's go into Sydney, let's go into the market and see what we can afford. Now, obviously prices aren't 200K, they're 1.2. And so very quickly they realize that, hold up, we can't buy a house for 200K. We can only buy a house for 1.2 million. But look, wages have changed and the interest rates are lower. So, hey, you know what? I can't afford 1.2 million. I can afford $500,000 or $600,000. So Jane's parents, along with the Jane, agree that it doesn't really matter about the asset. What matters is actually the suburb. It's the location. So just buy anything in this location and we're going to see the exact same growth that we saw in the house from 20 years ago that's going to happen moving forward. Can we see what the problem is here? The problem is that 20 years ago compared to now is a very different market. Not only that, but the suburb is not what dictates whether there's going to be growth or not. It's a simple metric of supply and demand. That's it, right? At the very core element of you researching for property or not, you've got to find out, is there more demand than supply? That's it, right? Then you can go into looking into, I guess, the developments or the council approvals for what else is happening in the area. But fundamentally, I don't care if you've got the nicest hotels, the nicest schools. If there is more supply than demand, the prices will not go up. That's just fundamental basic law of economics. So Jane goes out and buys a unit, right? A unit for $600,000 because that was her maximum borrowing capacity. So she said, you know what, let's go buy a 600K property. And now that's her property, okay? Let's go over to John for a second. John has come on to Search Property TV and has been educating himself, going, whoa, hold up, I don't want to buy a house because I don't even know if I want to live here or not. I may want to go and spend time in Bali, I may want to go spend time in the UK, and I want to go and do things. I can't do that if I've got a loan sitting in the back of my head going, I've got a loan, I've got debt, right? So John goes, well, there might be another solution here. They book in a strategy call with myself and they figure out that, you know what? I don't care if it's in Sydney, I don't care if it's in Brisbane or Melbourne or whatever, I'm gonna rent, right? Or I'm living with parents. And I'm gonna go and invest, right? So I go in and invest, and despite the fact that he can also afford a place for 600K, he's gone out there and he's bought 2 properties for 300K each. Right, so that gives you a total of 600K, okay? 600K. So John's gone out and invested instead where Jane has actually gone and bought a property, a principal place of residence, because now the parents said, well, rent is dead money. Why would you pay someone else's mortgage? Pay your own mortgage. Jane goes, that's a bloody good idea. So she goes and buys this place and she goes and moves in, okay? So she goes in, buys it and goes, well, you know what? My rent was actually higher than what my mortgage is. So Ravi's an idiot because I'm now owning an asset and I'm getting to pay down my own mortgage. I mean, where am I losing here? Compare that to John, who's still renting dead money, but he's now got 2 properties in 2 different locations and he's invested that money. Now, the problem is, right, that will occur is that Jane thinks Jane is smart and goes, well, you know what? I bought a property for 600K. The price will go up and then I can just go and invest after that. So I not only took advantage of the first home buyer grants and incentives, but now I can also double up and go and invest like John has. But John, the idiot, he lost his first home buyer grants and now he can't get that back because he wanted to go and invest. We're gonna see what the problem with that is once I rub off everything that's on the board. Okay, so Jane's got the one property, 600K, she's living in it, and she's gone, 2021, I've changed things, I wanna buy a house, I don't wanna rent anymore, I wanna escape. And so she goes and buys this house. So she's got the one house and she lives in that house, okay. And John, he's gone and continued renting, so he's rent vesting, right? He's rent vesting. Now, if you guys want a video specifically about rent vesting, I will make it. Drop me a comment down below and drop a like for the video so the algorithm can start pushing this video out to the people that need it. Now, John's rent vesting and John's got two properties, but they're also worth the same amount. So over here, asset, apparently, asset, right, of 600K, and John's got an asset of 600K across two properties. So in this situation, Jane's thinking, yo, you know what? Ravi's an idiot. I'm going to go and invest now. So she goes to the bank and goes, hi, Mr. Bank guy, broker or home lending specialist. I want to invest now, right? I want to start building my wealth. There's a couple of things that will happen here. One, if Jane has made a stupid decision of purchasing in the wrong area, the bank is going to go, well, okay, how are you going to afford this? Because your property that you bought for 600K is still 600K. Or it was 600K, but now it's actually 580, right? Because the market moved. And Jane's gone, well, hold up. My parents bought here 20 years ago and it went up to 1.2 million. So I don't know what you're talking about. But then the broker says, well, look, that's the fact. That's where we're at. Because supply and demand, I mean, that's how it works. So then goes, okay, well, forget that. I've actually saved enough money. I want to now go and invest. Let me go and invest. And I don't mind if I find regional properties. I don't mind if I find, lower grade properties or cheap properties, right? And the broker goes, well, no, you can't. And Jane's like, whoa, hold up. What do you mean? Because my friend John, who's now gone to the bank, he's gone, well, hi, I would like to apply for another loan. And the bank goes, okay, let's do your serviceability. Let's see if you're able to take on more debt. Now, let's say they're both earning the same amount. They're earning the same income, but John gets approved, right? He gets approved for a loan of another 270K. Jane gets denied. Now Jane's concerned, going, well, what's going on here? Because John's able to purchase more property, whereas I'm not. How does that work? Well, the fundamental issue here is because people think, right, what worked 20 years ago will work now. Firstly, that does not work. Secondly, your house, your principal place of residence is not an asset, okay? It's not an asset. Our parents, that earlier generation, have gone out and purchased property and it's gone up in value, and so they think it's an asset. An asset is not something that takes money from you, right? Your cash flow. So you're paying down a mortgage, it's taking money out of your pocket. It's a liability. If it was an asset, it'd produce income for you, which it doesn't. These are assets. That's a liability, okay? So we go, okay, Jane's out of the market. She can't buy. So she goes, okay, well, when can I buy? Well, they've gone, well, based on your servicing, unless you pay down your loan. And so as she pays down her loan, right, she misses out time in the market. So let's say Jane goes, well, as I'm paying down this mortgage, I'm now getting year by year falling behind. I'm hoping this property keeps up with the market, because if it's not, I not only lose money on the fact that I'm paying down a mortgage, I also lose the fact that the market is moving quicker than my property is, and I'm not able to save enough. Not only that, but I have no choice, because unless I pay down that debt, the bank isn't going to give me more loans to purchase more property. So let's say it takes 5 years, right? In 5 years, John's been able to go and purchase 1, 2, 3 properties based on the same level of income. Now, of course, obviously I'm generalizing here, but the major difference that I want to show and showcase to you is this here The principal place of residence is providing how much cash flow, right? How much? This much. A big fat zero, right? It produces no cash flow, okay? So the bank will go, well, okay, your debt is 600K, right? But it produces no income. And so now we have to rely on just your salary to obviously affect the debt, right? So if that's all we're using, well, your income's maxed out for the debt you've taken up. That was your maximum borrowing capacity. Now to take on more debt, we need more income. In John's case, he's gone and taken out these two properties, right? However, when we look at how much income it produces, how much cash flow is it producing? Well, it's going 320 per week times 2. So he's got an extra $640 a week in cash flow, in income, right? Obviously he's got some expenses, but the point I'm trying to make here is who is more likely to get more of a loan moving forward? Is it this person who thinks they're very smart, Jane, who gets zero income from her property, her debt, right? Versus John, who's got debt that's productive, making it work for him and producing $640 of rent, right? The point I'm trying to make here is that it's not just as simple as going, well, okay, my maximum borrowing capacity is 800,000. I'll buy a house for 500,000 and live in there. And then the extra 300K, I'll go and buy an investment property. No. The bank doesn't tell you that once you go and purchase the first one, your maximum borrowing capacity changes. Because they are now going, well, now you have debt. You have debt, you can't borrow. And then you go, well, hold up, you didn't tell me that. And the broker's gonna turn around to you and said, I didn't know you were gonna invest after this. And that's fundamentally the flaw here. Jane thinks she's way too smart because she's listening to the wrong people. Now, John, I'm not saying, is just coming here and watching these videos like yourself, but is actually going out there, educating himself and going, well, there might be a different way here. The biggest difference here is that John has choice. This income will pay off his loan, right? What's Jane gonna do if she loses her job, right? 2020, we saw a lot of people lose their job and they're in financial stress. So they go and, put their mortgage repayments on freeze. But the point I'm trying to make here is that this gives you no choice. This does, right? And so quit thinking like Jane and Jane's parents that have been thinking the same shit for 20 years. You need to change things up because the same way you can go out there and try and look for a job. Well, 20 years ago, they were looking in newspapers. Now you go on like LinkedIn and network with people. It's different. But why hasn't this changed? Why are people that you are listening to doing this? This is fundamentally a flaw within the whole system in the sense that you do this and you guarantee the shackles that will keep you at work 9 to 5, right? Doing something you may love today, but you may not love in 5 years. And that is the difference, that people are going out here, and you might be one of them watching these videos where you go, well, I don't need properties. I can go and buy a really nice house and relax because I love my job. You love your job now. What happens in 5 years' time? Because I guarantee you didn't even know you were gonna do this job 5 years ago. So you're definitely not gonna know what you feel in 5 years' time. So if you start building out things like John, if John then decides, well, I wanna buy a house, how do I do that? If you're interested to find out how John is actually gonna go and buy his house debt-free, so I'm gonna show you how to buy a house debt-free, principal place of residence. To show you that exact strategy, drop me a like, drop me a comment to tell me that you wanna see that video. I'll make that video next week. You let me know, all right? Something to think about. Context of the people you are listening to. This will not work in 2021. This still has a chance. And I can tell you now, based on what's coming, I'm gonna say the next 3 to 5 years, that is also gonna become irrelevant, okay? Guys, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Search Property TV. Got a little serious, got a little heated, but you let me know if you want that information around what John does next. Simply having investment properties, there must be an end game to it. I still want a nice house. Yeah, I do too. And I've got a strategy for you. Let me know. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.